Hello everybody. Today I can solve fractional equations by multiplying by the LCD. Now this builds on something that you should have done back in Algebra 1. It definitely gets a little bit more complicated for Algebra 2, but the procedure remains the same. It's just a little trickier to come up with the LCD. So let's start with something basic, something that you would have seen back in Algebra 1. To get rid of fractions in an equation, multiply by the LCD. That's how you get rid of fractions in an equation. You multiply by the LCD, they're gone. So this is more of an Algebra 1 example because the LCD is dealing with just integers. So my denominators are 2 and 3. So the LCD is the smallest number that 2 and 3 both go into. So basically what that means is, well, the multiples of 2, the multiples of 3. What's the smallest number? That's on both of these lists. 6 is your least common denominator or least common multiple. Now, let's just say that you didn't get the least one. Let's say you chose 12. That's fine as well. We just need a common multiple, a common denominator. So, I'm going to multiply by my LCD, which is 6. The reason I do that is to get my denominators to cancel. So in my first fraction, I have 6 over 3. Well, 6 over 3 cancels to 2. In my second fraction, 6 over 2 cancels to 3. And on my right-hand side, there is no denominator, so nothing cancels. So what's left in my first fraction? Let's do a different color now. In my first fraction, I have 2 and x. I multiply those, I get 2x. In my second fraction, I have 3 and x plus 1. So I'm going to write 3 parentheses x plus 1. And on my right side, x times 6 is 6x. Fractions are gone. Again, to get rid of fractions, I'm multiplying by the LCD. The LCD is the smallest number that all the denominators go into. I'm multiplying by it to get my denominators to cancel. So I cross out my denominators with my 6. Whatever's left, I write up top, and my denominators are gone. So now it's a regular linear equation. Next thing I do is I get rid of the parentheses, and I combine like terms, bring all the x's to one side, and I'm done. Now, one thing that you have to do at the end is you have to check. All you're checking for is to make sure that the answer does not make the denominator 0. Since there are no x's in my denominator here, since this is the Algebra 1 version, it is not going to make any of the denominator 0. Your answer is x equals 3. Now, number 2 is the same type of thing, so I'm going to let you do that one on your own. And I'm going to skip ahead to number 3. Variables. So this is what makes this a little bit different than what you did back in Algebra 1. Now we have variables in the denominator. So I know that I need to multiply by my LCD. When it comes to variables, I want to list my factors. Now, we've talked about single factors and married factors earlier in the year. We said that married factors have a plus or a minus sign. So if something is touching a plus or a minus sign, it's attached to whatever it's attached to. So I see x minus 4 as a factor, and that's it. I have another x minus 4 here, but I don't have to write the same factor twice. So since there's only one denominator, and if that's the case where there's only one denominator, then that's what my LCD is going to be, x minus 4. So I'm multiplying everything by the LCD. Notice that I'm writing the LCD on top. On my left, there's no denominator, so there's nothing to cancel. So that's 2 times x minus 4 plus x minus 4 and x minus 4 cancel. I'm left with a 4. On my right-hand side, x minus 4 and x minus 4 cancel. I'm left with an x. fractions are gone. To get rid of fractions, multiply by my LCD. From here, I just solve my linear equation, which we've been doing since 7th grade. I distribute, I combine like terms, I bring all the x's to one side. I isolate, I add or subtract first, I divide last, x is 4. Now I have to check. I have to check to see if this answer is going to make any of the denominators 0. If I substitute 4 into x minus 4, is that going to make the denominator 0? Yes, because 4 minus 4 is 0. So we reject this answer, and since there are no answers left, the answer is no solution. And that's why you must check. We didn't do anything wrong, but if your answer makes the denominator 0, then it can't be an answer. And again, why am I doing that? Well, if I substitute into the denominator, I get a denominator of 0. I can't have that. So to get rid of fractions, multiply by the LCD. When it comes to variables, you're going to multiply by all of your factors. There only was one factor here, so my LCD was x minus 4. Make sure you're multiplying everything by x minus 4. Get your denominators to cancel, and clean up whatever you have left. Six. To get rid of fractions, I multiply by the LCD. To get the LCD, I list all my factors. One factor I see is a 5. I see this 5 right here. It's single. It's not touching a plus or a minus sign, so that is one factor. I'm not going to combine it with the 10 because I don't have 10 as a factor. That 10 is part of a married factor. My second factor is m plus 10. I'm writing f1 for factor 1 and f2 for factor 2. I have m plus 10 twice as a factor, but I don't have to write it twice as far as the LCD goes. So the LCD, I'm literally just taking my two factors and I'm putting them together. Don't do any math, just take them and put them together. 5 and m plus 10 is 5, parentheses, m plus 10. If it's a binomial, put it in parentheses. You're literally just taking your factors, you're putting them together. So I'm going to just erase those circles to make it a little bit more clear. And I'm multiplying everything by the LCD. Notice I'm writing it on top for each because I'm multiplying by it. Now, first fraction, my m plus 10s cancel. I'm left with 5 times 1, which is 5. Next fraction, my 5's cancel. I'm left with m plus 10 times 1. That's m plus 10. Third fraction, m plus 10's cancel. I'm left with 3 times 5, which is 15. Fractions are gone. From here, I solve the equation, combine like terms, isolate m is 0. Check. Will substituting 0 in for m make any of the denominators 0? No. When I sub it in, I'm going to get 0 plus 10, which is 10. The denominators are not 0. M equals 0 is my answer. 7. Now is where we're going to start getting interesting. I start by listing my factors. I see an x. This x is a single factor. That's x. That's one factor. Then I see an x minus 1. That's a married factor. That's going to go in there. There's nothing else. Again, I see an x minus 1 written again, but I don't have to list it twice. To find my LCD, I take these two and I put them together. X and x minus 1 is x parentheses x minus 1. Don't distribute it. Don't tell me x squared, anything. Just take those factors and put them together. So I'm multiplying everything by my LCD, which in this case is x parentheses x minus 1. So x parentheses x minus 1, x parentheses x minus 1, x parentheses x minus 1. X minus 1's cancel. I'm left with x times x, which is x squared. X and x cancel. I'm left with 2 times x minus 1. X minus 1 and x minus 1 cancel. I'm left with 1 times x, which is just x. Now I solve the equation. Distribute, combine like terms. Now I have a Mr. X squared. Well, you know Mr. X squared's deal. He wants to party. I know he comes up in every single lesson, every unit. Before he can party, all of his friends have to come over. So we're going to subtract 3x, add 2, subtract 3x, add 2. I get x squared minus 3x plus 2 equals 0. Party time, bubbles. First sign comes down, negative and the positives are negative. What multiplies 2 and adds to 3, 2 and 1. Set each factor equal to 0. Solve each, x equals 1, x equals 2. Now I've got to check to see if my denominator is going to make if any of my answers are going to make any of my denominators equal to 0. Let's start with 2. If I plug in 2, I'm going to get 2 minus 1. That's not 0. 2. That's not 0. 2 minus 1. That's not 0. 2 is good. 1. If I plug in 1, I'm going to get 1 minus 1, which is 0. So 1 I reject. My answer is 2. We call 1 an extraneous solution. Again, it's a solution that we got. We did the right math, but it doesn't check out. Again, because in a fractional equation, you cannot have a 0 in the denominator. You can do a full check. If you did a full check with the 1, you would have gotten an error. But all you have to do is just check to see if the denominator is equal to 0. All right. Why don't you try number 8 on your own right now? So if you can just pause, try it on your own, and then unpause it when you're ready. Okay, now that you tried number 8 on your own, to get rid of fractions in an equation, I need to multiply by the LCD. To get my LCD, I'm going to list my factors. The first factor that I see is an x, a single x factor. Then I see an x plus 3. And again, I see another x plus 3. I don't have to write it twice. So for my LCD, just take all your factors and just smack them together. X and x plus 3 is x parentheses x plus 3. So I am going to multiply everything by the LCD. I'm going to write the LCD on top because, again, I'm multiplying by it. When I multiply by something, it's on top, technically. X parentheses x plus 3, x parentheses x plus 3. The reason I do that is to cancel my denominators. X and x cancel. I'm left with 2 parentheses x plus 3. X plus 3 and x plus 3 cancel. I'm left with negative 3x times x, which is negative 3x squared. On the right, x plus 3 and x plus 3 cancel. I'm left with x times x, which is x squared. Fractions are gone. Now it's just like an equation that we've been doing earlier this year or in the past. I get rid of the parentheses. I combine like terms. I see Mr. X squared, so I'm going to bring everything to one side. It's your choice which side you want to bring it to. I guess I'll bring it to the left. I don't love bringing it to the left because now my x squared is negative, but that's okay. I can deal with that. Always write the x squared first, then the x, then the number. Negative 4x squared plus 2. equals 0. Now there's an integer GCF, so I'm going to divide everything by -2. That gives me 2x squared minus x minus 3 equals 0. Can I factor further? Well, I see bridge method I'm going to have to do since there's something in front. So that's going to give me x squared minus x minus 6 equals 0. What multiplies to 6 and subtracts to 1? 3 and 2, p the total. If it doesn't divide nicely, it comes in front. If it does divide nicely, we divide it. Set each factor equal to 0. Add 3, divide by 2. X equals 3 halves. And then for this one, subtract 1. I get 3 halves and -1. Now I must check. Is plugging in 3 over 2 going to make any of my denominators 0? No. Is plugging in -1 going to make any of my denominators 0? No. They both check out. They're both your answers. That's it. This is not the easiest lesson in the world, but it's not super complicated either. I think it's a pretty fair, straightforward Algebra 2 lesson. To get rid of fractions in an equation, you're multiplying by the LCD. To find the LCD, you list all your factors you see in your denominators, and then you just put them together. You're writing them on top for each, and the point is to get your denominators to cancel. Once your denominators cancel, you clean it up, and you proceed on with the equation solving that you did back in 7th grade, if it's linear, or if there's an x squared. You learned how to do the Mr. X squared story in 9th grade Algebra 1, as well as earlier this year. Your classwork/homework is going to be to finish this. Fractional equations. And that's it. Enjoy the rest of your day. Ask me any questions if you have them. And bye.